Hello students, welcome to today's daily economy, and in this class we will go through the National Investment and Infrastructure Funds. Okay, it was in news today because the fund has accepted money from two overseas investors. And what is the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund? The NIIF is a dedicated fund launched by the government in 2015 to promote infrastructure investment in our country. It was registered as an alternative investment fund in December 2016 with a fund of rupees 40,000 crores. That was starting up the funds. And what is the significance of the NIIF in the context of India's infrastructure needs? India needs huge level of investment in infrastructure projects. At the same time, investment vehicles that mobilizes money and channelizes among priority projects is to be built. So there is a necessity of infrastructure investment vehicles in India. The NIIF here attracts investment from overseas to fund India's infrastructure project. Okay, the NIIF not only mobilizes from overseas investors but also domestic investors, but the priority is to overseas investors. Now, what is the nature of the NIIF as an organization? The Government of India has a shareholding of 49% in the NIIF, while the remaining shares are held by domestic and international institutions. The Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, and the Temasek, are investment entities that contributed to NIIF as shareholders. They are owned by their respective governments. First is the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority and second is the Temasek, that is the investment or sovereign wealth fund of the Singapore government. Okay, these are the two main overseas shareholders of the NIIF. Okay, remember, they are the shareholders of NIIF, not just investors. And about the nature of the organization, the NIIF website gives this description. The National Investment and Infrastructure Fund Limited is an investment-owned fund manager anchored by the Government of India in collaboration with leading global and domestic institutional investors. The NIIF is functioning as a trust and is registered as Category 2 Alternative Investment Fund with SEBI. Okay, so the NIIF is basically an AIF, or alternative investment fund. The NIIF manages funds worth of around $4 billion as on July 2019. Now we are coming to what are the activities of the NIIF as an investment institution. The NIIF has two responsibilities. First, fundraising through suitable instruments. It mobilizes funds. Funds are scarce for infrastructure financing in India. So that is the significance of NIIF here. It raises funds through suitable instruments. Secondly, it provides financial support to infrastructure projects in our country. And regarding the second function, that is providing financial support to infrastructure projects, here it gives equity, quasi-equity support to non-banking financial companies and financial institutions, as well as asset management companies that are engaged in infrastructure financing. They give equity and quasi-equity support to this type of institutions who are engaged in infrastructure financing. They give equity, quasi-equity and debt support to commercially viable projects. Maybe greenfield project, brownfield projects, including stalled projects. Bulk of the NIIF funding is indirect financing of infrastructure projects in the form of equity and debt investment in entities that give infrastructure investments. So they give mainly indirect financing. And now we are coming to three investment funds started by the NIIF, to mobilize funds from different investors so that the NIIF can finance the ultimate infrastructure investment companies. The NIIF has three distinct funds created to mobilize funds for investment in infrastructure projects. The three funds are currently raising capital from domestic and international institutional investors. All these three funds are registered as Alternative Investment Fund with the Securities and Exchange Board of India. So, which are these three funds? First is the Master Fund, second is the Fund of Funds, and the third one, the Strategic Funds. Coming to the first one, that is the Master Fund. The Master Fund is an infrastructure fund primarily investing in operating assets in core infrastructure sectors such as roads, ports, airports, power, etc. The next one is fund of funds. The fund of funds seeks to invest with experienced fund managers who have a strong and successful track record. Okay, so that is the main feature of the fund of funds. Okay, and the third one is strategic fund. The strategic fund is aimed at growth and development stage investments in projects, companies, in sectors that are of economic and commercial importance. Okay, then who are funding the NIIF? Which entities are giving funds to the NIIF so that the NIIF can finance India's infrastructure projects? The NIIF is funded by both overseas and domestic investors, especially institutional investors. And here are the overseas investors. The first one is Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. Okay, so the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority has also contributed to the shareholding of NIIF. The Abu Dhabi Investment Authority has also funded the master fund of the NIIF. And the second one is Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Okay, that has provided money to the fund of the NIIF. And next is the DP World, that is a Dubai-based investment entity that has financed master funds. And next, UK government. Okay, it has financed Green Growth Equity Fund, that comes under the fund of the funds. And this Green Growth Equity Fund finances environment-friendly projects. And next is the latest overseas investors. The NIIF is in news today because of the investment made by two overseas investors. The first one is Australian Superannuation Fund. Okay, and second one is Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. Okay, that is from Canada. So one entity from Australia and the next entity from Canada have agreed to provide funds to the NIIF. Each of these investors will make $1 billion investment in NIIF. And coming to the second type of investors, that is domestic investors. Some of the domestic investors who invested in different funds of the NIIF, okay, the HDFC Group, the ICICI Bank, Kotak Mahindra Life, and Axis Bank. So they have invested in the master fund of the NIIF. So that is about the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund. The fund is a dedicated government-created entity, okay, to finance infrastructure projects in India, and it mobilizes money from overseas investors as well as from the domestic investors. Okay, that's all. Thanks for listening.